Before I get into the topic of today's video, as per usual, I have to do my low, my high, and my acts of kindness. I'm just gonna cut to the chase and say that my low was it rained hard. Like, okay, normally I leave my folks' place at around like a little after 9 o'clock roughly before I come back here. But, like, I'm just about getting ready to leave. And I thought I was hearing the dishwasher running. No, it was raining that hard outside. Like, it was like rain, wind, thunder, lightning. I'm like, damn, nature, you scary. So, obviously I may hear safe and sound. But, seriously, my folks were warning me I should wait a little bit before I go home. And I did. So, I'm okay. My high is the fact I did get to spend time with my family yesterday, you know, watching my mom, you know, making sure nothing bad happens to her while she's in recovery. And my acts of kindness include taking out the garbage, emptying the dehumidifier, and emptying out the dishwasher because it was clean. I had to put dirty dishes in later. Oh, and I also helped make dinner too. We got a whole bunch of leftovers, trust me. So, now that that's out of the way, I was thinking over how I was going to start talking about this particular show that I have been watching that I am really digging so far. So, that being said, the inspiration for what I'm about to do came, believe it or not, from the Walker brothers, Doug and Rob Walker. Believe it or not, around 10 years ago, actually a little over 10 years ago, a certain comic book movie came out, and it was the first time that not only did Doug Walker do a bum review, and not only did he do a spoiler corner, as well as Sibling Rivalry, as well as spoiler corner, but around September of 2013, he actually did a Nostalgia Critic episode on it. And when he came to the Sibling Rivalry video, the way that Doug and Rob Walker started talking about it, I couldn't help but be inspired to do what I'm about to do right now. Excuse me? Look to the skies and believe a man can fly, neither a bird nor a plane. Superman! Yes. They basically did the original theme to Richard Donner's Superman. And I got inspired to come up with lyrics for that part, and so I did. So, yes, today I'm talking about the good old Man of Steel himself. You know him, or at least heard of him. You love him, or again, at least heard of him. It is Superman. As recently, Adult Swim on apparently the deceased Cartoon Network has been airing a new show called My Adventures with Superman. And I am really digging the hell out of the show. I mean, obviously, I don't even know where to start with the show, I'll be honest. Because I really do like it, but where do I start? Well, I suppose I should probably start in the beginning, where the series takes place. Well, first, they show, the very first opening scene in the very first episode is basically a little boy in Smallville, Kansas, just discovering his powers. You immediately fast forward to a young Clark Kent who is in his, let's say, early 20s roughly. And he and his longtime roommate and best friend, Jimmy Olsen, are starting their job at the Daily Planet, where Superman works as a mild-mannered reporter under the guise of Clark Kent. Now, on their way, Clark finds a beautiful looking woman whose name happens to be Lois Lane. And basically, you can pretty much tell where the show is going to go. Now, from the very beginning, what drew me to watching this show, for partly because I didn't watch it when it first aired, but it just kept showing up on my algorithm like all the time. So I finally gave it a watch, and yeah, this show is excellent. I mean, I love the animation. Very evocative of Avatar: The Last Airbender, and for those of you who don't know, that show got me through high school. The fight scenes and the action, very phenomenal, very evocative of the things that the Man of Steel can do, obviously. Now, there's two things that I'm sure that a few people are going to be concerned over. Personally, I don't have any concerns over this because those people really are nitpicking at that point. The first is, I mean, and I've said this before, when it comes to casting for voiceover, celebrities have been used for the lead role, or any role in an animated movie, almost since the very beginning. At least since the 1970s. And there are definitely some celebrities who are, voicing the main characters here. I mean, from what I've seen, you got a few legit voiceover actors like Carrie Walgreen as Martha Kent, and Chris Parnell as Slade Wilson. Chris Parnell, I believe, is also known for being Jerry on Rick and Morty, as well as a few other things. But I actually looked up, like, the main cast, specifically, Clark Kent or Superman, Lois Lane, and Jimmy Olsen. And with the exception of the latter, the first two are like legit well-known celebrities. Like, you have Clark Kent, voiced by Jack Quaid, who, unless I'm wrong, yeah, he was just in Oppenheimer. He was quite literally just in Oppenheimer. So, and he had a minor role in the Hunger Games. He's in The Boys. And, not to mention, Lois Lane, voiced by Alice Lee. Alice Lee's been in, Heathers the Musical, a Broadway production. And, actually, I like Heathers. It's a good show. Broadway show, I mean. And Zoe's Extraordinary Playlist. And I have to say, Jack Quaid and Alice Lee clearly have great chemistry in this show. Like, I just find their interactions so adorable. I do. I just do, man. I mean, here's the thing. Pretty much every single incarnation of Superman that I have ever seen, I've always really gravitated towards. I dare say he's probably my favorite superhero of all time. I mean, what keeps me from saying that outright is because you got quite a few Marvel characters who could contest that. Especially if they were from the iteration of the MCU. Which, speaking of iterations and or universes, as of seven episodes in, they have legit delved into the multiverse. So, yeah, courtesy of one Mr. Mixius Pitlick. Yes, I know how to pronounce it correctly. Although some people pronounce it Pitlick, I just call it Pitlick because that's what the Blockbuster Buster call it. And sure enough, this is the first time I've seen that character in the Superman cartoon. Superman the Animated Series, way back when I was really little. They added Mr. Mixius Pitlick, voiced by the late, great Gilbert Gottfried. Rest in power, Gilbert Gottfried. And, okay, that was one of my all-time favorite episodes of that show ever. Because, for those of you who don't know, and they haven't established it in this show yet, but in Superman the Animated Series, to get Mr. Mxyzptlk to leave you alone, you have to make him say his name backwards. And the way that Superman was cleverly able to do that always gets me to laugh to this day. Because what happens is, every, I think it's 3 months he shows up? Yeah, 3 months he shows up. By the way, for those of you who know, Mr. Mxyzptlk is a superpower interdimensional entity from the 5th dimension. Anyway, he shows up every 3 months, and to get him to leave you alone, you gotta make him say his name backwards. And the first time he got him to do it, right? Mixie, that's what they call him. I'm gonna call him Mixie because that's what people also call him. Mixie says, "You gotta get me to say it." And then, okay, you gotta get me to say it. And then Clark Kent's like, "Say what?" "Kill Tipsyism!" And then he disappears. And then 3 months later, Mixie shows up again. And then Clark Kent is like, "Oh, it's you, Mr. Kill Tipsyism." "Not Kill Tipsyism." It really became a running gag in that episode. I love stuff like that. Oh, man. That was funny to me. I love that sort of thing. I might actually watch that episode later. I don't know. But this Mixie in My Adventure with Superman is clearly not that silly. I mean, he is a little silly. I mean, again, he is an interdimensional entity from the 5th dimension. You gotta say from the 5th dimension. Otherwise, it doesn't work that way. Okay, so right now, after the most recent episode, the one that just delved into the multiverse, because at this point, 7 episodes in, actually it was more like 6, it was really 6 episodes in, but it was 7 episodes where Clark revealed who he is. Yes, they actually took that risk. They have established that in this universe, Lois Lane and Jimmy Olsen know that Clark Kent is Superman. And not only well, here's the thing. Lois eventually pieced it together, but Jimmy actually always knew. Spoilers, by the way. And I love that the way Jimmy figured out right away was they had been roommates since freshman year. And on the day that they first met, when Clark Kent opened the door, he broke the door handle. Remember, Superman has great strength, obviously breaking a door handle, I wouldn't put it past Superman to do that, accidentally, of course. And then Clark immediately tried passing it off as the screws came loose. And then Clark's like, "Well, I know the screws." And then Jimmy Olsen's like, "The door handle was broken clear in half." And the way Lois eventually tried to get Superman to reveal himself was he shows up as Clark Kent. They're on top of the Daily Planet. And she jumps off the building, and Clark Kent, knowing he has no choice, he has to save her. And there's some real drama in, the big reveals. There's some real hard-hitting stuff in this episode. Really, in this entire show in general. Let's be honest, Lois Lane, in pretty much any iteration that most people have seen, even when she was clearly one of the best iterations of her in the old Superman cartoon in the late 90s, early 2000s, or really more late 90s. Anyway, Lois really has always been portrayed as a damsel in distress. To me, this Lois actually feels like the best iteration of a Lois Lane you could get. I mean, don't get me wrong, she still screws up, and yeah, Superman does have to save her. let's be honest, Lois Lane, for all intents and purposes, is one of the first iterations of a damsel in distress for most people. But I'm really glad, like, okay, if Lois Lane is going to get into trouble, it isn't because, like, she's clumsy or she's quote-unquote weak. It's going to be because, like, she gets stuff done. She definitely knows how to stick up for herself. And in one episode, she knows how to lay a punch. So, for sure, I really am digging this show. You got great writing, great animation, great leads, you know, great chemistry between the leads. Seriously, like, I legit buy that, you know, Clark Kent and Jimmy Olsen have been best friends since freshman year of college. I love the witty banter that Jimmy Olsen and Lois Lane, like, have between each other when they're trying to figure out who Superman is. That's great. And I'm not gonna lie, I'm a sucker for love. So, of course I buy that Clark Kent and Lois are gonna get together. And at this point in the series, they are. In fact, they've only shown 7 episodes so far, so I'm officially caught up. And the next episode, which looks like it's going to be a 2-parter, is Lois and actually the last episode was them trying to figure out how to go on a date. Meanwhile, that's when Nixie shows up. So it really looks like now that Jimmy and Lois know that Clark Kent is Superman, it really is looking like, and this is the direction that I see them going in, at least in terms of the promotion for the next episode, which again looks like it's going to be a 2-parter. One superpower that Superman has is he has super hearing, and he can hear damn near everything and everyone that's talking, or everything that's going on. And it's very clear that so far in this show, I mean, you can tell that Superman has at least been able to, you know, not get completely frazzled underneath hearing all those voices. Because as a kid, I'm sure that would completely traumatize you. In fact, that's actually one of the good scenes from that Man of Steel movie that came out in 2013. That was the movie I was referencing earlier. So, basically what I'm trying to get is, in this episode that they promoted for this upcoming weekend, Clark has firmly established that to Jimmy, and, well, at least to Jimmy, that he can hear everything. And sometimes it really is a lot for him. I don't know how they're going to go from there, but we'll have to wait and see. I don't know, I really like this show. I really do. You know, but for me, I think what really makes me love the show more, even more than the chemistry, even more than the great action, the animation, all that stuff, this Superman, since probably from Superman the Animated Series, played by Tim Daly and then by George Newbern. This iteration of Superman, I think, is the first iteration of Superman I've seen that thinks and acts exactly like I would think and act, or even do, if I was the Man of Steel. You know, he sticks up for his friends. He's a knight. Seriously, that's really the one thing about Superman that, for the most part, most people tend to get right. Yes, Superman is an archetype. And you can make a case that he's one of the oldest archetypes there is. He's the first archetype introduced to many people. But I love that they're at least trying to steer away from that, but also keeping the core of the main character there. I love that. You know, he's just an overall good dude. In fact, in episode 4, when he defeated that one guy, Parasite, he says, and like, you know, Parasite's clearly injured from the battle, and he grabs Superman by the, what's wrong? Like, why are you doing what you do? And then Superman points out, like, all the EMTs and medical care around him. He's like, look around you. Is it really that hard to believe that there are people in this world that just want to do some good? That's Superman. That is exactly the sort of thing I want to see and hear Superman say. You know? He is the Man of Steel. You know? One of the greatest Superman movies I've ever seen. Superman versus the Elite. You know? He may be the judge. He may be the jury. He is no executioner. Freaking Man of Steel. Anyway. So, yeah. I mean, I love how light... I mean, granted, I'm sure they're going to go darker as the series goes on, provided it's allowed to go on. And, granted, I really want to see more of, like, where it goes between Clark and Lois. I clearly want to see more action. And, wow, the more I think about it, there's more stuff I want to talk about. I love how right now, like, actually, and it occurred to me as I was watching this, there is no word on Lex Luthor. There has been no sighting of Lex Luthor so far this whole show. I mean, yeah, you got Mr. Mxyzptlk, he's part of Superman's Rogues Gallery. And I do believe Livewire is a classic Superman villain. She was in the first episode. But other than that, nothing. Like, they really are focusing on, you know, the people at the Task Force X and, by extension, Cadmus. Which, I could tell you what that is, but I've talked enough. Go watch My Adventures with Superman. You know, if you're a longtime Superman fan, please know that this show really is trying to be good. And I really feel like, you know what? It's hard for me to say who my favorite Superman is. Because I'm always going to have a soft spot for Tim Daly. I'm also going to have a soft spot for George Newbern. But Jack Quaid, I like him. He's a very good Superman. I hope you like this video. If you did like this, on YouTube channel, follow me on social media. As always, I'm Mary Holland, making this video for all of you guys watching. Enjoy today. Hope you have a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful Wednesday. I forgot to do Happy Hump Day. Happy Hump Day, everyone. Actually, that reminds me. We got pumpkin spice from Dunkin' again. I'm going to get some after I'm done here. So, again, get yourself some pumpkin spice. Get yourself some pumpkin spice. Watch the show My Adventures of Superman. And have a nice day. Also, remember, if any of you guys want to talk to me, you can lend me all the way back. Actually, yeah. I forgot where I was. I'll always have her back. Take care. Make good choices. 607 all day, baby.